Hey there, folks. Today I am going to be showing you how to make tomato sauce with whole frozen tomatoes. Especially homegrown tomatoes are going to give you a really great flavor in this finished dish. And while I love canning up tomato sauce, sometimes I just don't have the bandwidth in my schedule for doing that all the time, or maybe I have a very plentiful tomato harvest and I don't have time to process everything, so I just throw whole tomatoes in the freezer. And then later in the winter months, I will cook them down and make a sauce with them that can either be canned or you can just make it and refreeze it. So this is a really simple way to go about doing this. You don't have to peel or cut your tomatoes. You simply throw them in your stock pot and heat them up and make your sauce from there. So let's dive into this tutorial and I'll show you the way I love to make tomato sauce with whole frozen tomatoes. To start the process, we're just gonna go to the freezer and pull out the whole frozen tomatoes that I actually threw in there about 5 months ago. Something a lot of people actually don't realize is that you don't need to blanch your tomatoes before freezing them if you plan to use them up within like half a year or so. My tomatoes literally just get tossed in. Sometimes I even leave the stems attached, and then when I'm ready to make my sauce, I will pull them out. If you want to thaw your tomatoes ahead of time to shorten the cooking process, you can totally do that. Throw them in a bowl because they will condensate and leak off a lot of water. So throw them in a big bowl or even in your kitchen sink. Let them thaw till they're soft there, and then you can throw them in your stock pot. But with me being the impatient cook that I am, I actually just take whole frozen tomatoes and I throw them straight into a 5 liter or a 5 quart, or I think it's a 4.7 liter stock pot with a lid. Of course, I want to take time to pop off the green stems. You don't want those in your finished product. And sometimes actually those little stems can be a little stubborn. If you are having problems getting them to break off, go ahead and just run your tomato under some mildly warm water and those stems should come right off for you. Stuff tomatoes into your stock pot until it is full, and you want to make sure you can still get your lid on. But fill it up, you're going to put it on the stove top then, and you are going to cook it down for about half an hour if you are working with frozen tomatoes. Be sure to stir things as they start cooking down. It will help things melt faster and prevent things from sticking and burning to the bottom of your stock pot. And actually, folks, if you want a full tutorial and recipe on how to do this, I have a whole post over on the blog where you can get a printable recipe. I will link that below so you can reference that. Your tomatoes are ready when they are soft and burst when you press on them with your stirring spoon. So everything should just be a big, watery, peely, pulpy mess. That's what you want. You are going to then let that cool for a little bit before you then put everything into a kitchen blender and puree it up. There's no separating peels and seeds in this process. We're going to puree everything in the blender and we're going to come through the other side with a tomato sauce made from tomatoes in their whole form. We're not removing peels. We're not taking out seeds. Everything is there, and I promise you it's going to taste amazing and have a beautiful texture as well. Now, I love using a Bosch in my kitchen. That is the name of this white blender you're seeing here in the video. It's got a mixing bowl for mixing bread dough or cookie dough or anything you want. And then it's got a very powerful blender attachment that I love to use for pureeing tomatoes when I'm making a sauce this way. Just gonna fill it about 2/3 full and let it whirl through. We're gonna let it go for about 30 seconds or until I no longer see peels whirling by me in the blender. We're gonna turn it off, dump it into another stock pot, and just keep going through the tomatoes like this until they all have been pureed. And then this is where the fun part comes in, because you get to just cook your tomato sauce down. Now this is gonna take, depends on how much you're working with. I actually have a recipe for you over on the blog, So I will link that down below. So be sure to go check that out if you want the exact ratios and everything, the exact cooking times. But I like to simmer it for about an hour, stirring it often. It will actually cook down quite fast with the peels in there and a few seeds that have been blended up. It actually thickens it faster. You're going to want to make sure you're stirring it quite often. You don't want it to burn, and you can stop whenever you're happy with the consistency, unless you're going to put in additives, which I actually recommend. So for this recipe, we're going to add in some oregano, we're going to add in paprika, and we're also going to put some garlic in. I love me a good garlic tomato sauce, and so we're going to pop these 3 things in. We're going to simmer it until the garlic is soft, and then it's done. You can cool it, put it in your refrigerator for use later in the week, or you can refreeze it, let it cool. You can rebag it and freeze it, or you can use it right away. I often will do that. Same day I make it, might as well kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I make my sauce and then use it for a dinner recipe. You can add in onions, you can add in more meat. Really, the sky's the limit. I absolutely love that you can just throw your tomatoes whole in the freezer, pull them out later in the winter, create your sauce. You can can it then, you can refreeze it, you can use it right away. It's a great way to go, and it's a really fast way to preserve tomatoes. And it's also a very delicious way to use them in your kitchen. All right, folks, if you have comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for joining me. My name is Autumn Rose, and I will see you next time.